Okay, Arjun, it's seriously nice having you here from the crypto ecosystem because a big thing has happened in the crypto ecosystem. And I think it's quite unfortunate that this has happened, right? Since you also run a crypto exchange. So, how have you been keeping up with this hack, which is of 2000 crores, first of all? Like, where were you when you heard this news and what was your reaction to it?
So I was in office and I get a call from my co-founder and says, please check the Twitter, right? So I went to Twitter. I could see that Zach, XBT, Cointelegraph, a lot of people, Cybers, they all made these posts, right? That is when, I mean, even at that point in time, we kind of question it, whether it has actually happened, right? And when you start seeing WazirX not responding to those things, and we have our contacts in WazirX, right? When we reached, they said, yes, that is true. And they are looking into this, right? And that is all they could share at that point of time. So that is when I got to know that the hack was real, right? So I immediately I was kind of shocked, right? So I started going to Twitter. I mean, the next whole day and then next 48 hours, I spent mostly in Twitter, Telegram, trying to see any more updates on the hack, how the hack has happened, and how does Geotas as an exchange prevent such a thing from happening, right? So, I mean, this is something that has taken number one priority, right? I mean, because this is like a huge setback to Indian crypto ecosystem, crypto investors, right? A lot of work has happened in the last 6 months to 1 year in ensuring that government understands our point. We have tried to talk to them, try to get the tax rates reduced, get the sorry, yeah, get the tax rates reduced, get the TDS from 1% to 0.01%, allow set off of losses. So multiple things we had been making progress, right? We have been able to convey our arguments, and government has almost seen the validity of those arguments. Now, such a thing happening just 5 days before a budget, right? So there is a big setback for the ecosystem. And being India's one of the largest exchanges, millions of customers holding their crypto, hard-earned crypto assets in WazirX, and that too, right now there's a bull market happening, right? Some of them would have been really happy, right? People holding it from 2021, 22, right? Through the bear market, finally seeing some profit, and then they see that they cannot access their assets. I mean, it's a very sad day for the ecosystem.
What should the first thing that users should do now? Because they are perplexed, right? And you are a founder for a crypto exchange as well, right? uh, like what should be their first thing? I know patience is there. A lot of vloggers and YouTubers have talked about
There are
what would you?
two ways to see this, right? So for WazirX users, there is something that they have to do, and then non-WazirX users, right? There is something different, right? So non-WazirX users is pretty easy, right? I think self-custody is the best thing. You have sophisticated hackers around the place, like you have like North Korean hackers who specialize in this, right? There are things that you can have multiple layers of security, right? But there is always a 0.0001% of risk for a centralized exchange, right? As a self-custody, the your security may not be as tight as a centralized exchange, but the target, you may not be the target for the sophisticated actors, right? Instead of having 100,000 people, like, or like a million people's asset in one single place, making it as like a honeypot, attracting a lot of people, self custody would actually serve the ethos of Bitcoin, which is decentralization. So as an exchange, we have kept the crypto withdrawals open through this period, right? And we have always kept crypto withdrawals open. And recently, we have added additional steps to ensure that only right people are using this, because crypto as such, there's always a chance of wrong actors using the crypto for various reasons. It could be terrorist financing, for money laundering purpose, or paying it to scammers and P2P. So for these, to ensure that we are providing access to legitimate users, we have ensured we have multiple KYC levels, right? We have kept crypto withdrawals for open for all, but without any additional due diligence, you'll have a very basic limit. And then you can obviously increase it by submitting documents. So I think that is the first thing I would say. As a user, if you can, if you are capable, right, buy a hardware wallet and secure it by yourself. That is for non-WazirX users. For WazirX users, I think it is kind of hard, right? So it also depends whether 100% of the crypto assets was within WazirX or partially they had exposure to WazirX, right? So if they had like partial exposure to WazirX, I think still it's somewhat better. We are in the middle of bull run, right? So this is like a sunk cost. You have to wait for WazirX to react, see what they are going to say, right? So I see end of the day, they have 50% of the assets, right? So all your assets are not lost. You're going to get some part of the assets. But the question is when you are going to asset and get that asset and in what form. Are they going to pay it in the form of crypto that you held, or they are going to convert everything into INR and pay it in the form of INR, right? See, all these questions are meaningless if there is a recovery, right? If they're able to recover this hack, I mean, the funds, there's nothing like it. I think things become, what to say, usual, right?
True.
We can even
It's
forget
business as
them.
usual. It's business as usual.
Yeah,
If
WazirX can
there,
even continue as an exchange, right?
yeah.
People may not even move the funds away from WazirX because WazirX has shown capability in retrieving the funds. And now that it has happened once, I'm sure WazirX would have taken extra steps to ensure this doesn't happen again, right? For example, they did some mistakes, right? Um, uh, three keys have got compromised one way or the other. The devices, all the assets were stored in like one wallet, right? So
Yeah,
these
that's my
kind of
question. I mean, before I think even in this conversation, I would like to disclose to people that I have also been a journalist and I've also worked at WazirX. And coming back to this part, which you were just telling me, that why a lot of debate is happening on Twitter about why Nischal Shetty or his team would store 46% or 50% of the reserves in in one wallet, you know. And before that, if you could explain multi-sig wallet also to the audience.
perfect, perfect. So see, it is always people want to reduce the single point of failure, right? There is just one password and then the password gets leaked. There is always an issue. So you try to break the password into multiple shards, right? So I think you'd all have heard that story. There is like four thieves who steal something, then they give to an old man for possession, and they say that only when all four of us come to you, only then you should give that asset, right? If any one of us, two of us, or even three of us come to you, you should not give me the give us the asset. You have to wait for all four to come and ask. Only then you have to give back the asset. Multisig is something like that, right? You break one password into multiple parts, and you also set a logic. You say that I break it into 5 parts, and I need 2 keys out of 5, or 3 keys out of 5, or 4 keys, or all 5 keys are required. So you can make any. So m out of n, people use this formula. N can be any number. You can even make 50 shards, right? And m can be any number less than 50. It could be 50, 49, 48, 47, right? So the higher the number of shards that are required, we assume it is slightly more secure, right? So WazirX had 6 keys, right? 6 shards, right? One was with liminal and 5 was with WazirX, right? This kind of system, why WazirX might have chosen is, so even if liminal being like they are a 3-year-old company, WazirX is like a 7-year-old company. So they thought even there is a mishap from liminal side, if their key is compromised or if they lose that keys, still they have 5 keys, right? And I think the system required 4 out of 6, right? So even if liminal is completely compromised or they lose the keys, customer assets would be safe, right? From that point of view, this choice was valid. But on the other hand, what to say, keeping all the assets in one single location and frequently using that wallet, right? See, why do you call something as a hot wallet? Hot wallet is like a purse, right? You open it every half an hour, 1 hour, trying to make payments to your shop, buying cigarettes, chocolates, right? You pay the metro fare or you pay the taxi guy. So every time you take the purse out, there's always a small risk that you might miss the purse or someone steals your purse, right? So cold wallet by logic, it is something like your bank locker. How often do you access your bank locker? Once in a year, 2 times in a year, or like once in a month, or only when there are occasions, like you have a special family occasion, a wedding is coming, then you go retrieve the jewels, use it, and then keep it back, right? A cold wallet should have minimal access, right? So this is one thing, right? So there are, see, for example, Geotest, we use BitGo's cold wallet. So BitGo cold wallet, what happens is we hold 0 keys. All the keys are held by BitGo, and BitGo provides $250 million insurance, right? So because it's completely in their control, right? There is no compromise that can happen in our end. So they do video calls, they do multiple identity checks for processing any withdrawals, and they do whitelisting, and there are daily limits. So no matter what happens from our side, the assets are safe, and that is the reason why they are also able to provide insurance. See, we are see all these solutions that we are talking about, right? These have come up in the last 3-4 years, and still we are a massively evolving ecosystem, right? Right now we have DeFi, staking, right? You want your custody solution provider to provide these. So the more complexity that comes in, right, the higher the surface of attack. If it is very simple, like a paper wallet, you keep your password in a paper, right? It is safe from everyone, and it's an extremely simple step, right? But when you make it complicated, you store it, you make it to multisig, you have a smart contract that operates, right? So all those things complicates, and you don't know in which angle the attack will come, right? So these are some of these things, right? So in hindsight, they could have done better, right? So there is always, right, everyone would do 90 percentage, 95 percentage, 98 percentage, 99 percentage, 99.99999 percentage. There is no 100% security. You saw last month, this month, Trump getting attacked, right? A future president almost saved by like few inches, right? So there is always a slight risk that is there, right? But you do as much as possible to reduce the risk. So assume you will get hacked, right? So what do? You try to ensure that all the assets are not in one place. There are in multiple places at any point of time, well diversified, and with different people having those access, right? So if this system is compromised, still you are left with 80% of the asset. If that system is compromised, you have 80% of the asset. You reduce that risk by diversification. This is as the same thing as investment, right? You don't put all your eggs in one basket. You don't just have Bitcoin or just have mutual funds. You try to have real estate, gold, crypto, equity. So the same process applies in security also. You try to diversify, and threat, right? There is a huge bounty, right? $230 million, right? 2,000 crores, right? How many Indians hold that kind of money, right? Someone is willing to spend 5 years, 10 years to break that wallet, because once he does it, he's going to have 2,000 crores, right? So there are people who are going to be targeting you continuously. So there is also something called rotation of keys, right? You don't keep using the same keys every few months or every few weeks. I mean, it depends on how much paranoid you are. You rotate those keys. So if you start talking about this, because so to protect 2,000 crores, there are 10,000 things you can do, right? There is no end to it. You have a strong firewall in place. You have physical access to the keys. You keep the keys in a proper vault, right? You see all those Mission Impossible movies. So
True.
so
Quite true.
so there's no limit to how much secure you can be. So WazirX has done multiple things right. Right? They have ensured that the keys are in multiple geolocations, not in the same location. Right? They had an approval process in place, but the Korean hackers were very smart. Right? They understood the nature of how they operate. They understood the nature of the Gnosis implementation, safe wallet, how it works. So they didn't actually compromise the wallet directly, right? They didn't hack the funds. They first made them upgrade the smart contract and then use the smart contract to sweep all the funds, right? So Bitcoin, this couldn't happen, right? Bitcoin doesn't use smart contract, right? That is the power of simplicity, right? So you saw all the other wallets were kind of safe. They of course they attacked the biggest wallet that was there, which is Ethereum, right? Uh, I'm surprised that they couldn't use the same thing to attack BSC or Bitcoin.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here I'll bring in, since there are a lot of stone pelting happening right now on Twitter, right? And since you are addressing as part of crypto ecosystem, there's a journalist whom I follow and and he's from Coindesk. His name is Shaurya. And I think I shared the tweet in the chat, right? He says that don't plead, and he's directly addressed it to Nischal Shetty, where he says that don't plead for support now after lobbying your shitty exchange to the government as safe and effectively driving away actual safer exchanges. Take responsibility for once. Now, what do you have to say about this? Because this is just 6 months back, right? When the whole FIU thing was happening and when the whole Binance thing was happening. And we know Binance and WazirX. I was inside the exchange when the whole thing happened with CZ, So, how do you take down this? Because this is actually, how do I say, he's this is a counter ecosystem which we have in India.
So yeah, exactly right. He's not just targeting WazirX, he's targeting all the Indian exchanges, right? I mean, you look at the overall international this thing, right? So this is not the first exchange hack. Even within India, this is not the first. We had CoinSecure getting hacked in 2018, I think. We had, I mean, Wald was not exactly an hack, but they did lose customer funds, right? And you had FTX in US, right? In terms of hack, we had Bitmart hacked sometime in the last couple of years. You had Cryptopia, which was one of the shitcoin exchange back in 2017-18, it got hacked. Right? We all know the story of Mt. Gox. None of us have used Mt. Gox, but we ensure, I mean, the media and
But
the
that's another allegation which is going on, that it's an easy way for, there's a lot of blame which is happening on WazirX, that it's an easy way for Nischal to kind of just steal people's money and kind of just kill the
yeah,
exchange
I
with a
don't
hack.
believe in it.
Yeah,
I don't
this
believe
was
in
this
it.
is a
So,
statement which is being addressed right across on all social
and
media.
it's very easy statement to make,
Yeah.
right? But I don't think someone will jeopardize their entire career, their life, their crypto. I mean, he has developed some kind of a reputation in crypto, right? So doing such a thing kind of screws it. See, and it's like crypto always leaves a trail, right? At some point of time, you're always see unless you are North Korea, right? Because you are outside the jurisdiction. Even if I know exactly which guy did the hack, I can do nothing sitting out of India or even sitting out of US for that matter, right? So that is the reason people from North Korea they're able to hack without any concern. But as a normal citizen, right? Why would you are already a millionaire, right? You have three different companies, Shardium, I think Pi 42 also, I think he's one of the senior management, right? So I don't think anyone will do this intentionally. I don't think this has happened. This is definitely a case of hack, right? Um, uh, this is, you can say carelessness, right? But we should not say it as an intentional thing. So there is, I think, Hanlon's razor, which says that never attribute something to malice that could be easily attributed to ignorance, right? People are kind of evil to you because they are stupid. They think differently. No one wakes up in the morning says, I want to be evil, right? You think you're a good person. I think I'm a good person. Nischal thinks he's a good person. Everyone is good, right? So most of the people, 99% of the people in the world are having good intentions, right? Unless we have solid proof, we should not randomly throw blames, right? I definitely not think this is an insider activity.
And coming back to this tweet by Shaurya Malvi, where he says, which I've shared it up, what do you have to say on this? Because I think probably this goes against the Indian crypto ecosystem, the entire
See,
ecosystem.
how,
If
how
you,
does she say that international exchanges are safe, right? So how do you measure safe, right? So every founder, right? Every this thing tries to make it extremely safe. There are some people who are lying through their teeth, right? Having very shitty systems, but they say they're really secure. But people who have been there in the industry for like 7 years, like WazirX has been there for 7 years. We have been there for like 7 years. Coindesk has been there for like almost same time. We have Zeppay, Unocoin there for like 10 plus years, right? It has been secure for such a long time. In fact, Binance has also been there only for 7 years, right? We don't have a history of Binance before 2017. So it's easy to pass judgment saying that Indian products are always bad. I don't use Indian companies. I don't trust the Indian people. Indian market as a users are bad and all those things, right? These kind of stereotyping, generalized comment, they don't make any sense, right? You can have a point by point fact, right? You are not safe because you are using this system, you are using this practice. What are the best practices internationally that we don't follow as an Indian exchange? So these kind of fact-based allegations you can always counter. But so sweeping statements, as a rule of thumb, are mostly wrong. You cannot always say something about everything, right? Something is always true about something, right? And I think this is from a senior journalist in a reputed blog from outside India. I think it's a very careless statement to make.
yeah, this is
I don't
Shaurya
think they should.
Malvi. It's coming right out from his Twitter, which is he's
People
constantly
have
saying.
lost, Indian customers have lost money in FTX. They have lost money in Cryptopia. They have lost money in Bitmart. A lot of dexes have got hacked, right? So what does he say about the international ecosystem in that case, right? It is not just one particular thing that has got it. So you had Celsius, Voyager, multiple companies in US facing bankruptcy. You had Gemini Exchange, right, which invested in Genesis, right? There's a long pending suit. You had Grayscale BTC, right? Which is behind Genesis, and they have been defunct. You had Terra Luna fiasco, right? Which actually this was nothing, right? I think people lost more in Luna scam than they lost in WazirX, right? So and even Ethereum has got hacked. Ethereum got hacked in 2015, right? That is when they had to do a hard fork. So it is very, very easy to say that Indian products are always substandard. right? See, there is one thing that is always, there is a gap in the sense, India regulations are not clear. There is uncertainty. If you have certainty, there will be slightly more investments in infrastructure, right? So there will be, you will be able to attract more quality people to work in this ecosystem, right? Uh, so that is definitely that, right? Regulations could make the system a little bit more secure, but you are talking about another unregulated platform, right? I don't want to name it, any international exchange, which is based out of Cayman Islands, British Virgin Islands, Seychelles, some exchange you don't even know where they are based out of, right? Which jurisdiction you are based out of, you are not sure, right? If you have a problem, right? Today I'm able to tag Nischal Shetty and he's able to answer, right? How many
Yeah,
crypto projects are dogs,
true.
right? You don't even know the founders are,
No, I,
right?
I, I see. I know that there's a hack happened and there's a money being stolen for people. And I have myself done numerous amount of video sessions with Nischal when I was inside the exchange, and he has been transparent enough. The only thing which I want him to is to kind of come on camera and kind of address the public. Which I think he's probably tweeted last day. Yesterday that
Yeah.
he's going to come, and so there's other tweet by Shaurya now. Now the reason I'm taking down these tweets is because these are directly hitting down on the crypto ecosystem or the Web3 ecosystem, which you guys have developed out here. This is the other tweet where he says that head of Bharat Web3 Nischal Shetty got your assets stolen after driving Binance others out of the country and calling itself safer.
See, okay. First thing is, the international exchanges have a choice to register in India. I think KuCoin has done it, right? I think Binance is in the progress. No one has stopped them from coming to India. It is just that the Indian government, especially FIU, has said that if you want to operate in India, follow our rules, right? So Indian government says TDS is applicable. Indian government has, say, for example, so much money that has been stolen from normal Indian users are being laundered by all these international platforms, right? You go to any police station, you talk to the nodal officers of cybercrime, you see how much of stolen funds are being laundered by all the top 5 exchanges. You don't even, I don't even have problem in naming like Binance, KuCoin, Bybit, OKX, right? In through P2P, these scammers are able to buy crypto assets from India and take money outside. That is the reason in the last 1 year, you see so many bank accounts of actual Indian users being frozen, right? Their accounts are being frozen on using an international exchange, not because they use an Indian exchange, because they accepted money that came from a scammer, right? So definitely, if these international exchanges are willing to follow Indian rules, right, they should be allowed, right? If they are not, right? For example, some of the exchanges like Huobi said they don't want to operate in India. OKX said they don't want to follow Indian rules. They will not operate in India, right? In fact, if you go to OKX, we'll say that we don't support operations in the country, right? It is not that we have driven them out. They themselves have chosen that they will choose non-compliance, right? They will not choose compliance, right? So it is from customer perspective also, from investor protection also. See, Binance had paid $4.2 billion of fine, right? The CEOs has spent 4 months in jail. So all this means that everyone has dead bodies, right? Most of the international platforms, right? So compared to that, an Indian platform which has been following all the rules and regulations of the country in terms of taxation. See, look at all the revenues that international platforms have made from Indians in terms of fees, how much GST they have paid, how much tax revenue they have contributed to Indian government. The answer is zero, right? So it is basically these people, because of the power of internet, they're able to operate from outside India, they're able to fleece Indians, right? But they don't contribute to the Indian ecosystem. So it makes rational sense for Indian government to ask them to register, right? So that, see, something like this happens today, right? Indian government can question Nischal. They can question WazirX, right? Because they have a proper connection that has been established for over a year now. They know whom to contact. But if something happens in international exchange, you go local police station, you make a complaint. They have no clue how do I contact someone based out of Seychelles. I don't even know where Seychelles is, right? I am not going to send a police team to Seychelles to investigate. I'm just going to send an email. If they don't respond, they don't respond. I don't have jurisdiction powers, right? It makes sense for you to invest in an Indian exchange where you can at least have a legal solution, right? If an exchange based out of Seychelles or British Virgin Islands is hacked, you don't know how this is going to turn out, right? FTX, the good point is they are based out, they had an US operations. So most of the cases happen out of US. Vault, they are based out of Singapore. So there is some solution that is coming out, right? But it's long drawn, there is different thing. But British Virgin Islands, there is, I mean, probably these islands will favor the company over the investors, right? They'll favor the promoter, favor the shareholders. You don't have a say, right? So, I mean, I could be biased because I run an Indian exchange, but I would definitely say your money is safer with an Indian company whom you can take them to High Court, Supreme Court, get and see your funds. If there is some kind of a carelessness, there's a deliberate mistake. But the same thing you can never, ever, ever do with an international exchange, right?
Right.
So,
Well, I
see,
guess probably this is the major test for Indian Web3 ecosystem, and I think whatever I could little contribute, because I myself has reported and kind of worked in a crypto exchange. I think I would love to have you every time, kind of, because these are some really wise words what you are speaking right now, and this is the major test for the Indian Web3 ecosystem, and somebody I thought probably should speak up, and because the kind of tweets which I'm seeing, I think it labels us all. You know, that's one of the
see,
things which I felt was wrong.
these
I
exchanges
have
have millions of customers in India. These exchanges have millions of customers in India, sometimes even more than Indian exchanges. They don't have one Indian office,
Yep.
right? If
I
you want to
mean,
physically, they don't have a phone
perhaps
call
I,
support.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
If you
That's
want to
true.
reach them, how do you reach them? You are at the mercy. You'll just tweet, tag them, and hope they respond. Right? If they make radio silence in Twitter, you go to their Fresh Chat or Zoho Chat, try to ping them. You may be able to email them. But
And
if
I
they
think
don't
most of
respond,
them, most of them want to kill their competitors. And India being such a large market, I think it's kind of, you can guess around what's going to happen.
everyone
So
wants Indian customers because we are the largest market. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
we are okay for competition, right? Let them come to India, operate on the same terms, have a registered office here, follow the norms, right? Don't support scammers, have a strong KYC, right? It's a win-win for all, right? But they don't want to have responsibility. They want profits without responsibilities, which is always, always bad.
the other question which I had was probably like, what are the best measures that you could take for your own crypto exchange, GeoTech right now?
So see, first thing is use cold wallets as much as possible, and better to use an insured cold wallet solution, right? Like Bitco, that's what we do. So that you can never ever blame us. At the same time, even if Bitco does a mistake, there's $250 million insurance amount, which is over and above whatever money was lost in WazirX, right? That is first thing. The second thing is have crypto withdrawals open so that customers always have that choice. They are not forced to hold custody in an exchange, right? If they are capable enough, they can always do it outside. Third thing is ensure security is not just a tech problem, right? Every employee needs to be sensitized about security, about clicking a link, about for example, you might get a mail from CEO saying that, hi, can you send me this information? But you need to authenticate if actually the mail ID is coming from the CEO, whether there is any compromise, whether something is out of. So all the social engineering attacks also very common, right? And even marketing team, they need to protect their social media assets, right? They cannot let malicious actors. I mean, you have seen accounts of famous personalities being taken over and malicious information being sent, right? Such a thing should never happen to GeoTest. And diversification of funds, right? Even within cold wallets, even within hot wallets, don't use the same wallet. Have rotation of keys as much as possible, and have world-class teams do audit to the security systems and certify them as safe, right? And a lot of security is also through obscurity, right? You don't actually say what solution you are using, right? So that you let the hackers figure themselves out. But if you have a closed system, hackers cannot find out what is the architecture they are using, what are the safety measures you have put in place, right? So with any third-party team, you don't allow all third-party teams to do audit. You only allow reputed third-party teams, and also have a uh, NOCs in place, right? So that they don't share confidential information outside. You have a bug bounty program to ensure that if there's a white hat hacker, they find a bug, they're able to report to you. You have circuit breakers to ensure that if something is off, just turn off the system, right? You don't need your system to work when there is doubt, right? If you are sure about everything, you can have, and also have limits, right? You have hourly limit, daily limit, to ensure that if $10 million is leaving the system in 10 minutes or 1 hour, right? Or even 1 day, based on the limits you have configured, you can just shut down the system, figure it out if everything was legitimate, and then open up the systems, right? Even individual user level, there are always limits to ensure that at any point of time, even there is a glitch in terms of trade engine, order book, right? Things have to tally. 1 plus 1 should always be equal to 2, right? If I'm subtracting an asset from someone that has to get added to someone else, right? And the total sum remains the same, inclusive of my fees, right? So every second we ensure that we do a reconciliation of all the numbers to ensure that no extra amount gets credited or amount doesn't get credited to a user. So even if a user complains, we always get to know if our systems are working properly or not. So, I mean, I can just go on and on, right?
Yeah,
It's also
I
about
agree.
having a firewall, about having a good monitoring system for all users. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Quickly,
yeah.
quickly now, the last question is, like, what would it take, kind of to cover for the Web3 ecosystem in India to cover this trust deficit, you know, because that is the word which is going around on social media right now. And what are the measures
So,
that as a ecosystem right
so
now
the
you
first
guys
thing
are
is,
taking?
first thing I would say is WazirX should resolve this issue as quickly as possible, right? I would right now say that liquidate everything into INR and pay INR the users as much as they held, like, and apply a haircut. You have 60% of the users' asset, give 60% of the assets back to people. If you make recovery, then spend. So this will actually bring back trust, right? If customers are going to wait for 2 years, 3 years to see the assets, Mount Gox customers, they are waited for like 7, 8 years. It's a good thing the price of Bitcoin has appreciated, but you cannot always say the same thing about meme coins, right? People are holding Shiba, Pepe, right? And if the price dumps 50, 60% from here and they are not able to sell it, who is responsible, right? WazirX might be held responsible. So don't think of anything else. When you make a recovery, fine, you can find a legal solution and everything. But as of now, whatever assets you hold of customers, right, at least give them option to withdraw, right? I'm not saying distribute everything. If customer wants to withdraw, keep it open, right? It is their asset. They have the right for towards that asset. That is one thing. And all other exchanges, I would urge them to open crypto withdrawals so that people can take that responsibility, right? I think most of the people have the responsibility. They are capable enough to store their own assets, right? If they're not, as a choice, let them keep it in an exchange, but you should never, ever, ever force them to keep it in the exchange, right? That is number two. Number three is, as an ecosystem, we stop this blame game, come together and present a unified voice to the government, say that bring quick regulations, right? Start giving licenses. You do all kinds of audits. You do security audit, you do financial audit, you do information security audit, and based on that, you give licenses. At this point of time, anyone can operate an exchange, right? There is no minimum forms, right? WazirX definitely had the systems in place, right? Despite that they got hacked, but there are smaller exchanges which may not even have systems in place, right? So if you have a standard, right? If a regulation comes and says these are the standards you need to follow, right? The information needs to be stored in India. You need to have X kind of security, Y kind of security, firewall, and all those things. See, in terms of AML, FIU has given us clear guidelines. We are following it. But in terms of security and all those other things, we need a regulator to enforce this. You also had something like a crowd strike, right? Not just when WazirX had happened, parallelly, there was other things that are happening around the world. Airplanes couldn't fly. Thankfully, most of the Indian systems which were not using CrowdStrike, they all had no problems. But so these kind of things can always happen. But a regulator like SEBI, a regulator like RBI had rules in place. They had business continuity proposals in place. Yeah. See, regulations would put minimum standards in place. So I would urge government to not to see this because this happened, I will not regulate. I would say that because this happened, you regulate, right? Bring customer protection, right? Because we are unregulated, insurance companies don't give us an cyber insurance solution, right? Technically, if a particular, let's say Bajaj Alliance or someone is offering an insurance solution for my hot toilet, customers are safer. I'm willing to pay the premium, but
Yeah.
they are not offering because we are an unregulated industry. So regulations would help customers and exchanges.
Got it. Got it. Well, it's been really kind of you, Arjun, to come out and kind of, communicate these wise words in such a time. I really appreciate your efforts and thank you for being here. And it was a pleasure hosting you. And also, I gained a lot of information. And probably this is how the Web3 ecosystem is going to be healthy. That's what I believe. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a
Thanks.
lot.
Thanks, Rachel. It was my pleasure. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.